Okay, so let's get right into it. You've probably seen this happen. A single casting announcement drops online, and bam, the internet just erupts. It pits artistic freedom against what audiences expect to see. Today, we're going to break down this really fierce debate over modern casting, and we'll use one big, explosive controversy to guide us.
So it all kicked off with this hypothetical scenario that honestly felt super real to a lot of people. Picture this. The incredible Oscar-winning actress Lupita Nyong'o is cast to play the mythological Greek figure Helen of Troy in some huge new epic movie. Just that one idea. That was enough to split everybody right down the middle and launch 1,000 online arguments. In the backlash? Oh, it was immediate, and it was intense. Critics were basically saying that casting a black actress in a role that's always been depicted as white wasn't just some creative choice, it was a betrayal. This quote here really captures that feeling, the idea that it's an insult to the entire story and where it came from. And this, right here, this is the heart of the whole thing. Is this kind of casting part of some forced political statement, a so-called agenda? Or is it just a director trying to pick the absolute best actor for their artistic vision? That's the real question we're digging into.
That question leads us straight into the first major battleground in this whole debate: talent versus the original. It's this total clash between a director's vision for a character and what we, the audience, expect that character to look like. So when does an actor's pure skill get to win out?
And you can see this playing out perfectly in a couple of recent, really high-profile examples. On one side, you've got Rachel Zegler as Snow White. A lot of people felt she just didn't look like the classic animated character, and when the film struggled, many blamed it on a perceived agenda and, well, a performance that didn't land. But then, on the other side, you have Daniel Craig as James Bond. I mean, he looked nothing like the traditional Bond from the books, and yet his incredible talent won everyone over, completely redefining the role for a whole new generation. So it seems like the big question is, does talent just trump everything else?
So it seems pretty simple then, right? If the performance is amazing, the look doesn't matter. But, it's not quite that easy. Does that rule really work for every single character? Or are there some figures where their background, their heritage, is just too important to the story to change?
To answer that, we really need to make a critical distinction. The whole argument starts to make a lot more sense when we begin sorting these characters into different buckets based on where their stories actually come from. Are we talking about mythology, pure fiction, or actual recorded history?
And this table here, it lays out that dividing line just perfectly. See, for mythological figures like Helen of Troy or fictional icons like James Bond, their heritage is often pretty flexible. The story isn't really about their specific ethnicity. But when you look at historical figures like Mulan, whose story is deeply rooted in Chinese legend and culture, or someone like Nelson Mandela, whose race is absolutely central to his entire life struggle, well then heritage becomes essential. It's part of the narrative. You just can't separate the person from their identity in those cases.
Okay, so this seems like a pretty clear set of rules, doesn't it? But this is where we have to stop and ask a kind of tough question. Has the outrage we see today, has it always been consistent? Or is there maybe a historical double standard at play when it comes to changing a character's race on screen?
To answer that, we've got to look at Hollywood's own history and introduce a term that really flips this whole debate on its head: whitewashing. And look, this is not some new thing. It's a practice that has a long, complicated past in Hollywood, and it gives us some really crucial context for the arguments happening right now.
So, what is it exactly? Well, whitewashing is pretty straightforward. It's the practice of taking characters who were originally written as people of color, whether in books, comics, or history, and then casting white actors to play them on the big screen.
And the examples? Man, they are everywhere. You've got Liam Neeson playing the Middle Eastern character Ra's al Ghul, Tom Hardy playing the Latino character Bane, Scarlett Johansson playing the lead in the adaptation of the Japanese story Ghost in the Shell. The point here is that for decades, changing a character's race was super common, but it almost always went in just one direction, and often without anywhere near the same level of public outcry.
So this history makes things really complicated. But let's push the argument even one step further. Let's move beyond just specific casting choices. What about the fundamental freedom of an artist to completely, radically reimagine a classic story for a totally new era?
For this, there is honestly no better case study than what Sir Ian McKellen did with Shakespeare's historical play, Richard III. This example challenges every single rule we thought we had about being faithful to the original source material.
So check this out. He took a play that was set in 15th century England, right? And he transported the entire story to a fictional, fascist version of 1930s England. He replaced swords with tanks, royal courts with military headquarters. He completely changed the entire aesthetic and the context of a historical story.
And what was the result? Was everyone outraged? Nope. It was celebrated as an absolute masterpiece. Nobody accused him of disrespecting Shakespeare or being unfaithful to history. And why? Because the artistic vision was so strong and it served a powerful new purpose. It proved that sometimes the most creative adaptations are actually the least literal ones.
So, after looking at all these different angles, we've talked talent, history, double standards, and pure artistic freedom. It really all comes down to one fundamental question. In our modern, global world, who truly gets to tell a story? You can feel the tension, right? On one hand, is art a commercial product that has to satisfy the expectations of its fans? Or is it more like a mirror, something that's supposed to reflect the diverse, constantly changing world that we all actually live in? Should artistic freedom have any limits at all? And if it should, who gets to decide what those limits are?
And ultimately, that's the question we want to leave you with. Who owns a story? Does it belong to the culture that created it hundreds of years ago? Or does it belong to the global audience that reinterprets it and finds new meaning in it today? There is no easy answer here. And that's exactly why this debate isn't going away anytime soon.